Imagine a world where a single drop of blood, painlessly drawn, could unlock a comprehensive map of your health, detecting diseases with unprecedented speed and accuracy. A world where sophisticated medical diagnostics were no longer confined to sterile, intimidating labs, but available on every street corner, affordable for everyone. It was a vision so compelling, so transformative, it captivated billionaires, former secretaries of state, and media moguls alike. The woman at the center of this audacious promise was Elizabeth Holmes, a young, charismatic Stanford dropout with a deep voice, piercing blue eyes, and an unwavering belief in her own destiny. She was hailed as the next Steve Jobs, a visionary poised to revolutionize healthcare. Her company, Theranos, was valued at $9 billion. But behind the sleek facade, the powerful endorsements, and the breathless headlines, there was a horrifying secret. That revolutionary technology, the one that promised to change the world, simply did not exist. Elizabeth Holmes was not your typical Silicon Valley founder. From a young age, she seemed driven by an intense desire to achieve, to make a mark. She enrolled at Stanford University to study chemical engineering, but her academic career was brief. At just 19, fueled by an idea she believed would democratize healthcare, she dropped out. Her inspiration, she claimed, came from a deep-seated fear of needles and a passion for making health information accessible to everyone. She founded Real-Time Cures, later renamed Theranos, a portmanteau of therapy and diagnosis. Her concept was audacious, a proprietary device, later named Edison, that could perform hundreds of medical tests from just a few drops of blood collected from a finger prick. No more bulky vials, no more lengthy waits, no more prohibitive costs. Holmes meticulously crafted her public image. She adopted a uniform of black turtlenecks, emulating her idol, Steve Jobs. Her voice deepened, her gaze intensified, and she spoke with an almost messianic fervor about her mission. She surrounded herself with an almost impossibly distinguished board of directors, including former Secretaries of State Henry Kissinger and George Shultz, former Secretary of Defense James Mattis, and a host of other influential figures. Their presence lent Theranos an air of unimpeachable credibility, a shield against any potential skepticism. Venture capitalists, always on the hunt for the next big thing, were enthralled. Theranos raised hundreds of millions of dollars from some of the most prominent investors, including Oracle founder Larry Ellison, Walmart's Walton family, Rupert Murdoch, and the DeVos family. Walgreens and Safeway signed lucrative partnerships, eager to offer the groundbreaking Theranos technology to their customers. Elizabeth Holmes became a media darling, gracing the covers of Forbes and Fortune, hailed as the youngest self-made female billionaire. The narrative was perfect, a brilliant young woman, disrupting an antiquated industry, driven by noble intentions. But beneath this dazzling exterior, Theranos was a company built on a foundation of secrecy, paranoia, and fundamental scientific lies. Employees were siloed, information was tightly controlled, and dissent was not tolerated. Scientists who raised concerns were dismissed or ostracized. The promised technology remained elusive, even to those working within the company. The cracks in Theranos' impenetrable facade began to show not from external scrutiny, but from within. A small group of dedicated scientists and whistleblowers found themselves grappling with an impossible choice: remain silent and be complicit in a deception, or speak out and risk everything. Ian Gibbons, a respected chief scientist at Theranos, grew increasingly alarmed by the company's fraudulent claims and suffered immense stress, tragically taking his own life. But his concerns and those of others did not die with him. Tyler Shultz, the grandson of board member George Shultz, worked at Theranos and quickly realized the company's technology was failing to deliver. He saw blood samples diluted, quality control ignored, and test results manipulated. He was joined by Erica Chung, another former employee, who witnessed firsthand the shocking inaccuracies of the Edison device and the desperation to conceal them. These brave individuals, risking their careers and facing immense pressure, began to share their stories with a journalist known for his tenacity, John Carreyrou of the Wall Street Journal. Carreyrou, a two-time Pulitzer Prize winner, initially approached the story with caution, aware of Theranos' powerful connections and the immense resources at its disposal. But as he dug deeper, he uncovered a systematic pattern of deception. He learned that Theranos was not using its revolutionary Edison machines for most of the tests it conducted for patients. Instead, it was secretly relying on modified, commercially available blood analyzers from other companies, and even then, often with questionable results. Theranos fought back with ferocity, deploying powerful lawyers, including David Boies, one of the most prominent attorneys in the country, to threaten Carreiro and his sources. Holmes herself, along with her then-boyfriend and Theranos president, Ramesh Sunny Balwani, used every tactic imaginable to intimidate and silence those who dared to question their empire. But Carreiro persisted, driven by the ethical imperative of his profession and the potential harm to patients. On October 15, 2015, the Wall Street Journal published its first bombshell exposé: hot startup Theranos has struggled with its blood testing technology. The article detailed the reliance on third-party machines and the dubious accuracy of the Edison. The reaction from Theranos was swift and furious, denying every accusation and attacking Carreiro's credibility. But the dam had broken. More articles followed, revealing deeper layers of deceit. Regulators, including the FDA and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, launched investigations. The CMS findings were particularly devastating. They discovered severe deficiencies at Theranos' California lab, posing immediate jeopardy to patient health and safety. In July 2016, CMS revoked the lab's operating license and banned Elizabeth Holmes from owning or operating a blood testing lab for 2 years. Walgreens, seeing the writing on the wall, swiftly terminated its partnership with Theranos, closing all Theranos wellness centers in its stores. The house of cards began to collapse with astonishing speed. Investor lawsuits mounted, as the promised billions evaporated. The $9 billion valuation plummeted to essentially zero. The legal hammer fell in March 2018, when the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission charged Holmes and Balwani with massive fraud, alleging they had engaged in an elaborate, years-long scheme to deceive investors. Holmes settled the civil charges, paying a $500,000 fine and agreeing to a 10-year ban from serving as an officer or director of a public company. But this was merely a prelude to far more serious consequences. In June 2018, a federal grand jury indicted Holmes and Balwani on 9 counts of wire fraud and 2 counts of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. The charges carried potentially decades-long prison sentences. The criminal trial of Elizabeth Holmes began in September 2021, attracting global attention. Over several months, a parade of witnesses painted a damning picture. Former Theranos employees detailed the scientific failures and the pressure to lie, investors recounted the carefully constructed deceptions, and patients shared their stories of receiving inaccurate or misleading test results. The defense attempted to portray Holmes as a misguided visionary, influenced and abused by Balwani, but the evidence of her direct involvement in the fraudulent scheme was overwhelming. On January 3, 2022, after 7 days of deliberation, the jury found Elizabeth Holmes guilty on 4 counts of defrauding investors. Balwani was subsequently convicted on all 12 counts against him. Holmes was later sentenced to 11 years and 3 months in federal prison, and Balwani to 12 years and 11 months, closing the chapter on one of the most audacious frauds in Silicon Valley history. The Theranos scandal stands as a stark and sobering cautionary tale for the entire startup ecosystem and beyond. It exposed the dark underbelly of Silicon Valley's fake-it-till-you-make-it culture, highlighting how easily ambition can morph into deception when unchecked by ethical boundaries and rigorous oversight. The story of Elizabeth Holmes is a profound lesson in the dangers of charisma overriding critical thinking, and the allure of a compelling narrative blinding powerful individuals to fundamental scientific and ethical truths. It underscored the critical role of whistleblowers, like Tyler Schultz and Erica Chung, and the indispensable importance of independent investigative journalism in holding power accountable, even against immense pressure. More broadly, Theranos forced a re-evaluation of how health technology is vetted and regulated. The promise of disruptive innovation must always be balanced with the paramount concern for patients' safety and scientific integrity. The human cost of the Theranos fraud extends beyond the financial losses of investors. It includes patients who received misdiagnoses based on faulty tests, living with unnecessary anxiety or, worse, delayed treatment. It serves as a stark reminder that in the pursuit of wealth and fame, some are willing to risk not just reputations, but lives. Ultimately, the rise and fall of Theranos forces us to confront a fundamental question: when does a visionary's ambition cross the line into calculated deceit? And how can we prevent such a catastrophic collapse of trust from happening again? The story of Theranos is truly extraordinary, and its implications are still being felt today. What are your thoughts on Elizabeth Holmes and the entire Theranos saga?
Let us know in the comments below.
If you found this deep dive into one of the world's greatest cons enlightening, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more exposes on the incredible world of heists, scams, and con artists.
We've got many more unbelievable stories to tell.